A few weeks ago, I made a video where I went over what I thought were the top 10 worst LEGO Star Wars remakes, and that video was pretty negative, hence the title. I was trashing on a lot of those sets. So in this video, I want to do the contrary and take a look at what I think are the top 10 best LEGO Star Wars remakes, because a very common theme within the community is always that the older sets are better, which is definitely true in a lot of different scenarios, but in this video, I want to show that there actually have been some great remakes over the past years. So starting off at the number 10 spot, I have 4504 Millennium Falcon from 2004, compared to the first Millennium Falcon set number 7190 released in 2000. And I've talked about this set a lot before. There's a lot of things I really like about it. One is that it's the only Millennium Falcon that's based off of episode 5. I've always liked that it has the episode 5 characters and a few snowtroopers. It just makes it stand out from the rest in my mind. But the most impressive thing about it is how much of an improvement it is from the original one that came out only 4 years prior. I mean, when you look at that one, it of course resembles the Millennium Falcon, but I mean, let's be honest, it's just pretty ugly. It's not very appealing. They went with a different technique than what we have today with those giant circular disc pieces that kind of just made it look like a UFO and not the Millennium Falcon. And then only 4 years later, they gave us this set, which perfectly resembles the Millennium Falcon and has those floating panels on top to access the interior and give it its shape that they still use to this day. So that's why it made this list. It's just pretty impressive to me how they were able to perfect the design of the Playscale Millennium Falcon just 4 years after their first attempt at making this ship. Moving on to the number 9 spot, I have 7663 Sith Infiltrator from 2007 compared to the original one that came out in 1999. And I think this one kind of just speaks for itself. I mean, when you look at this 1999 one, you can tell it's pretty outdated. And I said that very generously. This thing is kind of downright ugly. I mean, for the time period, it was decent. And despite the fact I just called it ugly, I actually do like its look. It looks like it's from the 90s, which I think is cool. But the improvement they were able to make from this one to the 2007 model is pretty crazy. The 2007 model got the shaping down pretty much perfectly. It resembles the ship so much better. They went from this extremely blocky and chopped up looking design that was the wrong color, being blue and black, to a very smooth and sleek and accurate design that is the right color. Next up at the number 8 spot, I have a set that does not get enough attention. It honestly baffles my mind how this set is so overlooked, because I think this thing is a near perfect, and that is 75086 Battle Droid Troop Carrier from 2015 compared to the one that came out before that, 7929 The Battle of Naboo from 2011. And I mean, it's just insane to me how much this droid carrier stands out from the other ones LEGO has made, and especially from the 2011 set, which a lot of people happen to like. But the carrier itself is just pretty puny. It only has one droid rack, and also the droids look kind of goofy in their position like that. I also think the guns sitting in between them doesn't help much either. And then 4 years later, they give us this model for only $40, including 15 battle droids, making it an insane army builder, along with this massive beefed up droid carrier that is way more accurate than all the other models. And the reason it's more accurate, one, because it's bigger, but also because it has 2 droid racks, which is just more accurate to what we see on screen, and it just makes this thing look great. It works perfectly in mocks, it works perfect for army building, and again, it just makes all the others look puny, especially the 2011 one. And continuing on with droid sets, up next at the number 7 spot, I have the fan favorite 7662 Trade Federation MTT from 2007 compared to the original one, 7184 Trade Federation MTT from 2000. And yeah, I know for a lot of people, this is definitely an obvious pick for a list like this, but I mean, for good reason. When you compare these two sets, it's really crazy how much LEGO improved to the 2007 one, and I feel like just calling it an improvement is an understatement. When you look at the 2001, it just barely resembles the cutout shape of an MTT. There's really no details going on. I mean, honestly, for the year 2000, it's like they didn't even put as much effort into this as they could have. And then 7 years later, the very next model they make of this vehicle is literally one of the best sets they've ever made, and the best model of an MTT we're ever gonna get. The improvement is just wild. It's like, hey, on this one, we're not gonna try as hard even for our time period, but then on this next one, we're gonna make one of the best sets we've ever produced and set an unachievable standard for MTT remakes to come in the future, which is literally what this set did with the 2014 one. It set the bar too high, and everyone hates that set just because this one is so good. Anyways, though, up next at the number 6 spot, I have what might be a bit of a hot take, and that's 75055 Imperial Star Destroyer from 2014 compared to the original 6211 Imperial Star Destroyer from 2006. And yes, I know this 2006 Star Destroyer is a great set. I love this thing. A lot of other people love this thing. It's super iconic, super nostalgic, but man, this thing is insanely fragile. Panels are always falling off. It's a pain to handle. It's a pain to move. It's massive and it looks good, but it's just fragile. And also, one thing I've never really liked about it is the window and the bridge. I mean, it's cool that LEGO wanted you to be able to put figures up there, but it just completely throws off the look of the ship, for me at least. And also that just bare bones Technic beam going right across the middle doesn't help much either, and that's why I consider this 2014 one to be a great remake. It's relatively the same size, a bit smaller, but the good thing is it's very structurally sound compared to the 2006 one. It's not super fragile, and there's no window in the bridge, so it actually looks more like a Star Destroyer. Anyways though, now making our way into the top 5, at the number 5 spot, I have one of the rarest LEGO Star Wars sets ever made, that being 7153 Jango Fett Slave 1 from 2002, compared to the original Slave 1 that was released in 2000, only 2 years prior. And this is another one that kind of just speaks for itself, but the crazy thing to me is that the gap between these two sets is only 2 years. This is the smallest gap between any two sets on this list, and the improvement is just outstanding. I mean, here we have this extremely puny and tiny little Slave 1 build from 2000, and I mean, that's a bit of an understatement. Like, a lot of people consider this to be one of the worst sets ever made, and one of the worst sets from 2000. I personally don't think it's that bad, but there are a lot of people that do. But the fact that only 2 years later we got this, which is way bigger, way more accurate. I mean, it's actually got a properly designed Slave 1 windshield piece that curves all around the top. It's just really impressive to me. And also, this was like sort of the base Slave 1 design. It's sort of in the same boat as the Millennium Falcon, with it being sort of the standard blueprint or model they use for the models to come in the future, like the 2007 one, the 2010 one, and then the 2019 one. I mean, obviously they all got improved here and there, but they all still resemble this one. They're also the same size, and the fact this one only came 2 years after this one, which is just extremely puny again, is just insane to me. Now moving on to the number 4 spot, I have a fan favorite, that being 9516 Jabba's Palace from 2012, of course compared to the original 4480 Jabba's Palace from 2003. This is another one that just speaks for itself. I mean, that 2003 model is just super bare bones, like it barely even resembles Jabba's Palace. Now there are some things I do like about it. I like how there's a trapdoor and you can make Luke and other characters fall down into what is supposed to be the Rancor pit, and there's also like an archway and some like lit flames here and there that sort of give it the look of the inside of Jabba's Palace, but it just doesn't really work. But then 9 years later they made this model, which is just insane. It's a perfect playset, but it also resembles Jabba's Palace in basically every way imaginable. I mean, the back side of it is literally the outside of Jabba's Palace. It's such a perfect display piece. It's almost a modular set, which I think is awesome because we don't usually get Star Wars sets that are buildings. Obviously, they're usually just ships and stuff. So seeing a set like this is just so awesome to me, and comparing it to the original one is just night and day. It's so crazy how much they improved on it. Anyways though, next up at the number 3 spot, I have a bit of a wild card for this list actually, that being 75183 Darth Vader transformation from 2017 compared to the original 7251 Darth Vader transformation from 2005. And this 2005 version is actually pretty good for the most part, especially for the time period. Everything you'd want in a Darth Vader transformation set is there, with the medical droid with all the arms, a feature where you can spin the chair around and Darth Vader can transform. And in 2017, LEGO definitely could have just done a $15 or $20 modernized version of this set, but instead they decided to go all out and they gave us this, which is one of the coolest sets they've ever made. First of all, for $25, you're technically getting 5 minifigures, 3 of them being droids, and then you also get Emperor Palpatine thrown in there too. But really the main upgrade is just the builds. They actually represented the scene really well with this set. Like, it's surprising how good of a job they did. The shape of the build is literally the Imperial logo as seen in the movie, and there's so many more play features like the lever that actually puts Darth Vader's helmet on him, as well as an upgraded mechanism to spin his chair around, and also this play feature where you can make all the droids fly off the set, like in the movie when he stands up and freaks out and everything starts breaking. Now making our way to the number 2 spot, I have the set that everyone was expecting to be on this list, that being 75256 Kylo Ren's shuttle from 2019 compared to the original one from 2015. And if you can't tell, this 2015 one is not accurate at all. First of all, it's the wrong color, being gray when it should be completely black, and also the wings don't fold down into the V shape like they're supposed to. They just stand straight up, and then there's like this feature where you can twist these knobs on the back and it splits in half and sits like as you see here, which obviously isn't accurate. His ship does not do that. And the reason this set was so inaccurate back in 2015 was because LEGO designed it for the first wave of Force Awakens sets strictly off of concept art, and the conclusion that most of the community has come to is that Disney just did not give them the best art that showed off the complete vehicle and how it's actually supposed to be, and LEGO just designed the set off of what they were given, and that's why it turned out to be so inaccurate. But then just 4 years later, they completely fixed everything and made this set right here, which is arguably the best sequel set ever made. It's roughly the same size, but obviously, as you can tell, they fixed the color and they made the wings function how they're supposed to. And one thing I really appreciate about this set is just how quick they were to fix this set and make an accurate remake. I mean, this thing came out only 4 years later. LEGO was really on top of their game back then. Anyways though, now finally making our way to the number 1 spot, the best LEGO Star Wars remake, in my opinion, is 75357 Ghost and Phantom 2 from 2023 compared to the original 75053 The Ghost from 2014. And for the longest time, everyone loved this set, mainly because it was the only Ghost we had gotten for almost 10 years, and it was just a very fan-favorited ship from a fan-favorited show, so people just thought this set was great. But when the new one came out in 2023, it was so good that it kind of just showed the community that the 2014 model was not near as good as we thought it was. First of all, the shaping is completely off. The angled parts on the sides are not supposed to curve in like that. I've never understood why LEGO got this wrong. I always thought that wouldn't be a very hard thing to design, but they messed up their shaping pretty bad. And also the interior space is just so puny. Besides the cockpit where you can put Hera and Kaden, there's literally not much. All you have is this tiny little hatch that reveals a 4x4 area where you can barely fit one minifigure in there. And then you take a look at this new one that has perfect shaping. The sides are completely straight how they're supposed to be, and it actually has a fully detailed interior that is very impressive and super fun to play with. There's room for all the figures that come in this set plus more, and there's also just so many little knickknacks and Easter eggs hidden throughout that make it really fun. And on top of that, it actually includes the Phantom as well, which back in 2014 was a separate set you had to buy. So yes, in my opinion, I think this is the best LEGO Star Wars remake. The changes might not be as blatantly noticeable as they are in some of the other sets on this list, but they really nailed down and fixed the main issues, which was the shaping and an interior, which I think are obviously very important on a LEGO Star Wars set. Anyways guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you think about my list down in the comments below if you agree or disagree. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see the link on the screen right now.